and welcome along to the Chronicles Express, as we're going to call it tonight, with me, Andy, from the Red Devil Chronicle. Bit of housekeeping first of all, might as well get this out of the way. As you can already tell from the sound and production quality, producer Joe is not here, Nick is not here either, and nor are we at the usual studio where we record. Unfortunately, it's currently undergoing upgrades, so we're not able to use it this week. But as I'm sure many of you are aware, we've also not put any content out by podcast form in 2 weeks now, or 3 weeks, including this one. So basically, just to explain where we've been, first of all, I was away for a week, that would have been 3 weeks ago now, where I went up to the Lake District and proposed to my girlfriend, now fiancée. The added bonus is she did say yes, so at least it was worth the trip. And the week after that, producer Joe was away. He was down south somewhere in Cornwall, so it's been a bit frantic. It's been our summer break, I guess you could call it, but at least it's out of the way now, and we're back raring and ready to go for the season ahead. We would have liked the studio this week. It'd been perfect, really, because, of course, this Saturday, it's the big one. It's Spurs in the opening game of the season. But we'll give it our best shot tonight, see how we get on. And let's get down to business then. What's coming up on tonight's podcast? Well, what did we learn from the tour of the USA? What are your predictions going into the season? And Di Maria, the biggest flop you've ever seen in the Premier League? It's not a question, it's a statement. United chat coming up next. So then, there's no real way to start the show than with Angel Di Maria. It's confirmed tonight that he has moved to PSG. Bid believed to be 44.3 million accepted, and Di Maria has passed his medical at PSG, and so he is gone. No longer a United player, and almost what a relief. It's dragged on for so long now. Almost been waiting with a bit of anticipation for him to go. For me, personally, I would have loved him to stay initially. I would have liked him to stay and fight for his place. And you know what? If he'd have had the balls to stick around until January and he hadn't have improved and he'd have still been the same, frankly, useless character that we saw last season, I'd have been happy with that. Not obviously happy with the end result, but happy that at least the player showed the right attitude. He showed the right drive that we, as Manchester United fans, are after. That is all we can ask for. You know, at the end of the day, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not willing to show it on the pitch, then we're not interested. You have to balance it. And Angel Di Maria, for me, he's dirtied the number 7 shirt. The history of that shirt, we really need to hand that on very carefully to the next person and hopefully make a star of them. But it's pretty apparent now that for those United fans that didn't initially think it, he definitely didn't want to be at the club. He 100% wanted to go to PSG last season, but obviously for the financial fair play reasons that have now gone out the window, he wasn't able to do so. So he's got his dream move, and to be honest, I'm glad to see the back of him, so I won't linger too much on him. Di Maria is gone, and thank the Lord. We can look to replace him now. You know, Pedro seems to be on the cards. Whether or not we'll be able to push that through, who knows? He's got a release clause, so we have to meet that, and then we have to convince the player to want to join us. But let's get this 100%. You know, Pedro, if he is going to join us, has to want to play for the shirt. If he's not interested in playing for us, let's go and look at targets elsewhere. There are plenty of other talents out there in world football. Yes, a lot of them are a lot more expensive, but when you look at the likes of Griezmann especially, very exciting talent, you know, someone of that nature, someone of that talent would be absolutely superb. But obviously, you know, in an ideal world, we sign Pedro. He wants to play for us. That would be superb. Moving on to another sale, another out, catching up with where we were up to. Raphael, of course, he's also gone. I wasn't sad about this initially, in that when I heard Raphael might be leaving, I thought, yeah, right decision. You know, as much as the passion is right for the shirt, and I cannot argue with that, his commitment was superb. And, you know, in spells, he was superb as well for us. But he just never met the potential. And as we've discussed many a time on the Chronicles, he was just a walking red card. There was always that side in him that he was just ready for a sending off. So I was fine with that initially. You know, Valencia is the more versatile player, can play in more positions. That's exactly what Van Gaal is after. So I thought, well, it's an obvious choice, really. Darmian, his first choice, Valencia as backup. It made perfect sense. But then Raphael was sold for £2.1 million. Now, that brought me on to another problem, which I vented, as many of you may have seen on Twitter at the time. And with Raphael, not particularly fitting into the rule of this per se, but when you look at it this way, Manchester United recently, although some of it's deadwood, Robin van Persie has, of course, been sold at a huge loss, regardless of the wage bill. Nani, sold at a loss. Yes, needed to go, in my opinion. But why did we not get more? I don't know. Raphael, yes, he only had 1 year left on his contract, but then we've heard of various other players that are going for double, treble that, who've got 1 year left on their contract and aren't even half the player that Raphael is. At the end of it all, we paid, I think, around £2.5 million for Raphael. I think it was 5 for Raphael and Fabio. So you might say in that particular instance, it's not really that big a loss at all, if any loss. But my problem with it is, United seem to be in this sort of unsustainable loop at the moment, that they buy players for more than they're worth, a lot more, which you might expect, not a problem, but then we're selling them on a couple of seasons later at cut prices, like significantly cut prices. And I just think, at the moment, whilst we're making the money from sponsorship, it might not seem like a big deal, but it's not a transfer policy for me that's sustainable forever. United need to change in that way. You know, at 25 years old, Champions League player, Premier League proven, not, the best right back in the world by any means, but certainly a good player. We should be making more money on players like Raphael. We bought him for 2.5-ish, if you split the deal down the middle with Fabio. How did we not make more out of that? We didn't buy a 25-year-old Premier League proven Champions League player and a very decent right back, certainly. Still with potential over the next couple of years to maybe even progress a little bit further. I just think we're missing a trick there. Personally, for me, I think we need to change our ways in that respect. I know it's not going to be the biggest concern for the club at the moment. As I say, with all the sponsorship deals, I understand that argument. And I understand that with some big wage bills to be got rid of as well. But I just think we're making too big a loss on too many players at the moment. That would be my opinion on it. Certainly do get in touch with us at WeFollowUnited and let me know yours, please. Moving on then to the tour. Have a brief chat about that. So, the USA Tour, what did it teach us? Ultimately not a lot, if we're honest. Van Gaal seems to be a little bit confused to me. It was sort of a 4-4-2 come 4-2-3-1 played throughout the course of the tour, which made me think, well, are you actually going to play that during the season? I doubt it. It's probably going to be a 4-3-3 again. We all know that's his preferred way of playing, so why are we playing different formations during the tour? It was a little bit confusing for me. I don't know if we'll use Memphis through the middle. Whether Van Gaal's got a plan to change things up his sleeve, I know he's certainly stubborn to change, so it would surprise me if it was anything other than a 4-3-3 you saw against Tottenham. And if that's the case, should we be wasting time experimenting with formations that we know Van Gaal doesn't like? As you'll have heard me bang on about for weeks, and Nick and Joe will be sat at home listening to this, absolutely sick of hearing it, but 4-2-3-1, I would have no problem. In fact, I would be absolutely ecstatic if that's what we played, because I think that gets the best out of the current team. It's the best system for us. But Louis van Gaal's never agreed with that, so I was a little bit confused to why this sort of 4-4-2 come 4-2-3-1 when Depay dropped back came into play. I don't know. It was a strange one. And we've not really learnt too much about the actual squad that we can expect for the game against Spurs. I thought we might learn it against Barcelona, but it seems that he's just gone with this sort of first half squad and second half squad. Obviously, as the tour progressed, the players from the first half got more minutes, but it still seems a bit confusing to me. I don't know what his preferred 11 is going to be. I've got an idea of what I'd like it to be. Whether or not that comes off is another story, but I'll discuss that in with the fan takeover in just a moment with your predictions on that as well. So for me, the tour didn't really teach us a lot, other than the fact that Daley Blind might be a centre-back, which, well, it fills me with dread, frankly. I think he's nothing more than a utility player. Might be a very good utility player, but Is he going to be top drawer as a centre-back? Absolutely, for me, not. So, Daley Blind, there you go. That's a worrying one. That was something that I learned that I did not enjoy about the tour. The rest of the football we played, though, was very good in parts. Really like Schneiderlin. I think he's going to be absolutely perfect for us. Said that he was the signing we needed, so absolutely delighted to have him there. He played really well on tour. Schweinsteiger looked a bit off the boil. It's understandable. It's going to take time for him to get up to speed with things. And that's why I think perhaps he and Carrick should share that role early doors, in the season, just whilst he finds his pace, finds his legs again. That would be the way I would do it personally. And so we're going to move on in a moment to the Spurs preview, where we can discuss the team in a little bit more detail of what I'd like, and also have a chat through some of the fans' predictions from the Monday Fan Takeover on Twitter. But just one thing I wanted to end with. I just want to ask the question, and I will put it out there on Twitter. The Pedro deal, as I mentioned, it's looking likely to happen. Firstly, would you be happy with Pedro? Is he the man that you think can replace Di Maria? For me, I think when you compare against what Di Maria provided to us last season, most players could probably provide at least that. But whether he'll provide the step up that Di Maria had in him, I don't know if Pedro is that good. I probably personally haven't seen enough of him to judge him on that personally, but I think he's a step down personally. That's just my opinion. Please let me know. I'm sure he'll do a fantastic job if he's brought in, and I think he's got a good attitude about him, so I hope that outweighs anything else. But just the other thing on that, if we do sign Pedro, is that our last signing? I mean, you know full well what we think on this, the Red Devil Chronicle. We still believe that we're 2 signings away from challenging for the title. Centre-back, centre-forward, it's really obvious. If Wayne Rooney's out injured, we have next to nothing. We've got Hernandez, the little snake, who is nothing more than an impact player for me. And Wilson, he's a step below what we need at the moment. He's still young, so by all means give the lad a chance, but I think he probably, ideally, needs to be loaned out. Beyond that, what you're looking at the moment is if we bring Pedro in, could he play as the centre-forward? It's certainly not his natural position, but he could probably do a job there. I know there's been talk of the likes of Memphis playing there. Again, not going to be his preferred natural position. And Januzaj as well. I mean, if I saw a lineup in the Premier League where Januzaj is our striker, I would be very, very worried. So I think that's something we seriously need to look at. And also, with the goalkeeper situation still ongoing, even if we keep De Gea for next season, you cannot rely on De Gea to provide the sort of performances he did last season. Yep, he's there to do that, but when you look back on it, some of those saves were astonishing. The number of one-on-one chances we let oppositions in on, and the number of times he bailed us out was phenomenal. I don't think we could expect another season, even if De Gea stays with that, even with the talent he has. And so we have to pick up on the fact that there are still massive defensive frailties. Chris Smalling has really picked up his game. No issue with him. Marcus Rojo, will he do the job when fit? Maybe. I'm not sure. He's a little bit too casual, as I've discussed previously. I don't know if he'll do the job. Daley Blind, absolutely not, as we discussed. Phil Jones, I don't think he'll ever make the potential that we thought of him. It's a real shame, but I just don't see it. And so that leaves us again in a pretty weak position. Midfield's starting to take shape and look really good. We've got some promising players in there, and we've got some interesting problems as well to face. Ander Herrera, I know, is a big concern for United fans. Certainly is for me, where his position is in the squad. Whether or not he'll get in front of some of the other players, but that's why I want Carrick and Schweinsteiger to share the role initially, and then you could play Schneiderlin and Herrera as the other 2. That would be it for me. But do you think that United still need those 2? I mean, we've been banging on it about it all summer. Have things changed from what you've seen on the tour? Do you think United still need 2 new players, the centre-forward, centre-back? Do you still think they're priority signings? Do let us know at WeFollowUnited on Twitter, as I say. That's it for the United chat. Next up, we're going to have a bit of a chat through the fan takeover, see what you had to say regarding some of the predictions for the season ahead. So every week on Twitter, as those of you who follow us will be aware, on a Monday we run something called the Fan Takeover. And the idea behind it is that we ask some of the tough questions surrounding Man United and we ask you to discuss them, see what you have to say. So there were 4 topics that we discussed this week during the Fan Takeover. And let's kick off with this. We asked you, what position will United finish next season? In other words, will we improve on last year's 4th place finish? Now, this was an interesting one in terms of where you, the fans, thought we were going to finish. I'll just read through some of the thoughts of the fans, first of all, that we had get involved in this one. We've got @Dilem14 says 3rd, but there's still time to buy some good players and improve our chances of a top 2 finish. We've got @James Cadwell says our squad has improved since last year, so I'm going for 3rd. But with a couple more quality signings, I think top 2 even first. It seemed to be a general trend that a lot of fans that got involved on this, and thanks very much for your thoughts, thought 3rd place was probably where we're at right now. But it seems that some of the fans that were getting involved in this do agree that we're still lacking a couple of signings. And if we got those signings, we would be pushing back into the top 2. So interesting thoughts on that. In terms of what we had to think on this, I'll just give you Nick's prediction first. He sent me his predictions over from the fan takeover that we had. He thinks we're going to finish 3rd as things currently stand with the current squad. Again, I think he's of the belief that if we get some of the big signings that we still need, there's a chance we could push into the top 2. Now, I'm going to disappoint you all now. So I'm going to get my hard hat on. Here we go. I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't think with the current squad we're going to improve on 4th place that we finished last year. I think that's exactly where we're going to finish again. Unless we pull out some of the deals that we've been begging for all summer, I think as it stands, Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal will all finish ahead of us. That's the way I see it. Sorry to be a pessimist, I can only be honest. Nick says 3rd, I say 4th. Nick's not here to argue about it, so at least I'm not getting too many rocks thrown at me for now. I look forward to that one next week. So that's our thoughts on that. I think 4th. A lot of you on Twitter, and Nick certainly agrees with those, think 3rd. Let us know. Please get in touch at We Follow United on that one. The next question that we asked during the fan takeover this week, 4 trophies, of course, up for grabs. Even if we don't make the Champions League, which, God help us, we do. We've still got the Europa League as a backup, so we are in for 4 trophies this season. How many do you think United will win? At Darren Hazard, here we go. Honestly, I don't think we'll win anything next season. And I can't disagree with him. I'm just going to get my thoughts out on this again. I don't think we'll win any trophies next season. I think Van Gaal will treat it as another perhaps experimental season with the whole P word that I'm not going to say, and his systems and his various other things that wind me up. I think as a result of which, I think you'll see poorer teams played in the cup games, and that'll eventually put us out. I don't think, as I say, we'll challenge for the Premier League as things stand, and I can't see beyond maybe the quarterfinals of the Champions League. I'd be fine with that in terms of Europe. I don't expect too much from Europe for this season, but I can't see us challenging. So I agree with you on that one, Darren Hazard. Thanks very much for getting in touch. At Clay 1978 United, our friend Chris says, would rather concentrate on the league, of course, but Europa League, if we don't make Champions League, could be good for fringe players, similar to Kane last year. Very, very good point. He mentions about Wilson could shine. Obviously, no one wants us to see United not get into the Champions League. But even if we get there and we don't get through the group stage, because of the way the seedings work, it's probably going to be a tough group for us this season. If we do end up in the Europa League, I don't see it as the worst thing in the world for us. When you think about these fringe players, the likes of Wilson, as Chris mentions there, also Januzaj, that are starting to get to that stage where they need to step up now or they're not going to make it. It's almost the perfect opportunity for them. It really is. I think it's a great point. I think you get them European experience at that age, give them a chance to go out there and play and express themselves, and let's see what they've got. So there you go, very good points. Now, moving on to our thoughts on this. Nick, on this one, thought we're going to win 1 trophy, is his prediction. He thinks possibly one of the cups. I, for the reasons stated, think we'll play the wrong teams, pick the wrong 11. in the Cups, and as a result, I think we'll go out of those. And as I say, I can't see us challenging on the other two. So I agree with Darren Hazard. Nick thinks there's a possibility we could win one. Again, though, please do get in touch at We Follow United on Twitter. Let us know your thoughts. How many trophies do you think Man United will win in the season coming up? Be very, very interested to get involved in debates over that one. The third topic then we had, moving on in the fan takeover this week, was this. Who will be Man United's player of the season? Some interesting thoughts came up on this one. At Cogsy666 said Luke Shaw for me, if he stays injury-free. Looked fitter in pre-season than he did last season and played well in the games. Well, I can't disagree with that too much. I thought he was poor in the first game, in that first half that he played pre-season. But beyond that, he's looked solid enough. Whether he'll be player of the season, I think it's an outside bet. But thanks very much for that one. It's interesting thoughts. And, certainly if he reaches the potential and gets over those fitness problems, he's got so much to offer us. Really has. At Copious Opium, though, went for Juan Mata. Now, this is interesting. And I'll go on to why in a moment. But Ryan at Copious Opium says, got a feeling he'll hit heights beyond when he was at Chelsea this year. So he thinks he'll go above and beyond the level he was at Chelsea, in other words. Now, as much as I'd like to agree with that, and I think it's an interesting call, a good one, and there's every chance he could, I just don't know if Juan Mata will fit in. If we sign someone like Pedro, for example, is Mata out the side? I don't know. It's a really difficult one. This whole thing with Herrera and Mata, it's a huge, huge problem. If both of those players are going to be missing from our squad, we are missing out big time on a lot of potential talent there. So whether Mata gets the chance or not, we shall find out. Now, our player of the season, I think we actually agree on this one. Nick went for Schneiderlin. He thinks he'll be our player of the season, or Smalling. And that's in terms of the current squad. He does also mention Pereira as a dark horse in terms of breakthrough season. I don't know if Pereira would get enough of an opportunity to actually win it, which I think Nick's sort of alluding to there within the comment that he made to me. But Schneiderlin, yep. I mean, Nick and I's thoughts on this. We think he's certainly United's most important signing. So I think Schneiderlin or Smalling, I agree with both of those. I think it's the biggest year for Wayne Rooney, but I don't know if he'll step up to that mark. So whether or not he ends up being our player of the season or one of Schneiderlin or Smalling, Nick's gone for two. I'm going to say, I'll just split the two of them. I'm going to go for Schneiderlin. Yeah, I think he's going to run the midfield. So I'm going to put my neck out and go for that. Now, the last debate then that we had on Twitter this week. Looking forward to, of course, the Spurs game, which we'll have a little bit more of a chat on before I finish this evening. What score will United versus Spurs finish? So we'll run through a couple of the fan thoughts first of all. At Boss Saeed says, Man United 3, Tottenham 1. At C Clay 1978 United says, United need to start strong and positive and go at teams. 4-1 United he goes for. Interesting. At Copious Opium, I'll go 4-2. At Cogsy666 is the only one, I think, that didn't go for a win there. He's gone for 1-1 draw. So there you go. Nick and I are going to have a bit of a thing about this, and producer Joe as well. We're going to have a bit of a league running between us for the season. What we'll do is we'll put on the YouTube video, what score do you think United versus the team we're playing will finish? You can comment your score predictions underneath. Basically, the way we're going to run it is if you get the team that wins right, or the result right, if it's a draw, then you get 1 point. If you get the score right as well, then it's 3 points. So that's the way we're going to run it. So if you pop your comments on when we put this up on YouTube, what score will Manchester United versus Tottenham finish is the prediction for this week. So you've heard some of the predictions there. Nick's gone for 2-1 on this to United. I know I've spoken to producer Joe on this as well. He also thinks 2-1 United as well. And where am I going to go with this one? Let's think. I'm going to say Man United 3, Tottenham 1. I don't know if that's going to be the score. being completely honest with you, probably not what I would have said initially, but I don't want to go the same as Nick and Joe. They've both gone 2-1, which I think will probably be right, but I'm going to throw it out there early doors. I'm going for the 3 points. I don't want to be sharing 3 points with everyone else. I'm going to go for it. 3-1 United is what I'm saying. I'm going to be positive. Let's see how that one works out for us. So that was some of the predictions and some of the predictions for the season and also for the game coming up from the fan takeover this week. Thanks ever so much to all of you that got involved in the debates this week. It was absolutely superb as always. And so to end this slightly shortened Chronicles podcast tonight, I'm going to have a brief chat through predicted lineups for the Spurs game, what we'd like to see, what Nick and I certainly would like to see for Saturday afternoon. Have a bit more of a chat about the game itself, and also give a quick mention to some of the transfers that could still happen, being rumoured this week. Well, of course, that music normally means the shootout, but this week, well, there isn't a shootout because there's no one here to ask any questions and there's only me here to answer them. So I just thought I'd throw it in. This is what happens when producer Joe's not around. The show literally falls to pieces. But just one final thing then to sum up and wrap up tonight's Chronicles Express. Just a bit of a preview then, look at the squad that Nick and I certainly want to start against Spurs. Whether Van Gaal will go with that is another story. And just also going to mention a couple of the transfer rumours that seemingly won't go away. So we're going to have a quick, brief chat through that as well. Starting with the Spurs game though, we've not really covered it enough so far. You've just heard some of the predictions over the scores. And seemingly most people are going for the United win. This game is going to be far from easy. I know Spurs have been playing this week in the Audi Cup, played as recently as Wednesday night and played 2 nights in a row. But I think they'll be raring and ready to go for this one. And if last season's anything to go by, United were not fired up and ready to go first day of the season against Swansea, as you all well remember. So let's hope that things are a little bit different this time around. We need a very quick start. The problem last season is we let Chelsea run away from everyone else and we never ever looked in the title race at all. We cannot let that happen again. Chelsea haven't strengthened this summer at all, really, unless you count Radamel Falcao as strengthening, in which case I'd question what your opinion of strengthening is. But it certainly seems that a couple of teams have given us a chance here. City have not gone out and done what I thought they would. Raheem Sterling, their buying potential for a lot of money, I might add. But beyond that, again, there's not the strengthening in the key areas that you suspected they might. Arsenal, a lot of people go on about Arsenal at the moment just because of Petr Cech, but what really have they done that's that much more amazing than last season? Yeah, Petr Cech will be a superb goalkeeper for them, I do not doubt that. And they were superb in parts again. Whether they've got enough in terms of, up front again and centre-back, probably the same sort of issues you're looking at United at the end of it all. It'd just be a case of whether Alexis Sanchez, their best player, who's better than our best player, and at the moment it certainly looks like he is. Hopefully the arrival of Memphis can do that. Hopefully Rooney can step up, who knows. But looking back to the Spurs game anyway, Harry Kane of course didn't play in the Wednesday game in the Audi Cup, and that of course started the usual Twitter rampage. Now, if you think that meant that Harry Kane's coming to United, well, let's keep our fingers crossed. But personally, surely you've just got to see it as he was being rested. He's got a massive game Saturday afternoon. He's got to fly back home. Surely that was it. And Harry Kane is the most likely threat, the obvious threat to us this Saturday. He was poor against us last season. He didn't particularly light it up. There was a problem against some of the bigger teams, if we're honest. I know he had the game at White Hart Lane against Chelsea where he absolutely stunned their back line. On the whole, he wasn't superb. He wasn't anything to write home about in a lot of the games. Against the bigger teams, I guess you'd say. Certainly against United didn't impress me. Just had a couple of moments against some of the other teams, as I say, the Chelsea game. I know he scored the winner against Arsenal, if I remember rightly, at White Hart Lane as well. But he wasn't superb in that game either. So, hopefully we can keep him fairly quiet. The issue we have, as I mentioned earlier on, is Daley Blind. If he's playing as one of the two centre-backs, Harry Kane could potentially have a field day at Old Trafford this Saturday. And I'm not meaning that in any disrespect to Daley Blind, but it's just not his natural position. He wasn't bought to be our first-choice centre-back. So why we're in a position where we've got a game on this coming Saturday and we haven't signed a player in a position that we desperately need, I don't know. We've left ourselves short, and if Daley Blind plays, as I say, I really do fear for us against Harry Kane. He'll stick himself on him, and I think there's goals to be had there all day long. We've really got to worry about Tottenham's pace as well in certain areas. Players like Andros Townsend, if he is fit to start, if he plays. I know he had an absolute shocker at Old Trafford and was taken off during the first half, but there is potential there. There is pace in that Spurs squad. The only area that I'm less concerned about than last time we played them is our midfield. I think if we dominate in the right areas of the pitch, we have a superb midfield now. And if we play it right and play the right players, I think we'll overrun Spurs in midfield. And I think we need to go with a 4-3-3, because then we take control of the midfield, get the ball out to the two wide men, hopefully a bit of pace out there. Certainly Memphis will provide that if he starts, whether he will, or whether Van Gaal goes for Young, I don't know. But whilst we're talking about this, actually, let's go on to the predicted lineups, or what Nick and I certainly would like to go for. Nick has sent me his, and I think I 100% agree with it. I also saw Mark from the United stand. He did a tactics show on Wednesday night, in which he picked the side that he would like to see Van Gaal pick as well. And I think it matches up with what Nick and I both would like. So Nick's team that he would like to see against Spurs, that he believes would get us the best result, would be David De Gea in goal, Darmian, who we've not had a chance to mention yet, but looks an absolutely superb right back. Smalling and Jones as a centre-back partnership. I think you have to go that way. Rajo, of course, has been away and had an extended break. He's not going to be ready. Shaw as the left-back. And then a midfield three of Carrick Holding, Schneiderlin and Herrera. That, for me, would be the perfect three to play. Schweinsteiger could perhaps come on and influence the game later on in proceedings. No problem with that. And then a front three of Mata on the right, Memphis on the left, and Rooney spearheading the attack. That would be where we go. Whether Van Gaal chooses to go that way, we'll see. But I certainly agree with Nick's team there. I wouldn't change a thing. That would be exactly the way I would line up against Tottenham. So we'll certainly see on that front. Let us know what you want your team to be for the big game this Saturday. We're at We Follow United on Twitter. So let us know, what formation would you play? Who would you start? It's a big game, it really is. And it's very important for us to get off to a winning start. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that one. Just to end with a couple of points on the transfer rumours that seemingly just will not leave us this summer. Gareth Bale, I saw this one earlier on this week. If this is true, it's staggering really. 2 bids of 100 million for Bale, both rejected. Are we going to continue to miss out on the marquee signing that we're after? That is a worry for me. I don't want to go too Galactico. We've all seen what happened with Di Maria, of course Falcao last season, but Gareth Bale certainly looks a step above those sorts of players in terms of his attitude as well as the ability that he has. I think he would have been perfect for us. I'm a little bit confused to why it says 2 bids of 100 million. Did United walk in there, offer 100 million, get rejected, and then Woodward walked out of the room, got a bit of a goldfish memory, turned back round, knocked on the door, Perez answered, and he said, 100 million maybe? Can we do a deal like that? Why 2 bids are the same? A little bit of confusion caused over that one. Whether or not there's any truth in it is another story entirely. Another couple, John Stones. Part exchange for Evans, already making me laugh when I see Johnny Evans' name written down. Will Jones choose Chelsea, firstly? It's a big thing. I know Rio Ferdinand certainly come out and had his say on this, saying that John Stones should come to United. I don't know if he's even the player we need right now. We've got young centre-backs coming through, and we've seen how some of those are currently working out for us. So I'm not sure. I think we need a little bit more experience than that right now, if I'm being completely honest. Yep, John Stones looks a superb prospect. Of course, he's English. That's a big bonus with the homegrown rules that are certainly going to be coming in. I just don't know if I would sign John Stones. Well, I mean, I'd sign him, but maybe not as the main centre-back. I'd probably look to someone else as the experience and bed John Stones in over time. I just don't think we've got that opportunity to take the gamble right now with where we're at. But if it means, Johnny Evans goes the other way, we've discussed it many a time, we're more than happy with that. So any deal that involves him going, if we can get John Stones as a result, absolutely fine. Now the final one, Javier Hernandez. This is a rumour player going out. I never thought I'd say this, but I don't think we could sell Javier Hernandez. Monaco and Spurs are interested, but with the front three that we've got available at the moment in Rooney, Hernandez and Wilson, I don't think we can afford to lose him right now. Unless we're buying a top-class striker to replace him, then I don't think we can sell at all. I think we've got to keep hold of him. £12 million being reported the fee, but, we are lacking. And as I said earlier, I do not want to see the likes of Januzaj as our main striker come games in a couple of weeks' time. I think that'd be really, really poor planning from Louis van Gaal. But we shall see. If you're interested in any of the topics discussed on tonight's show, please do get in touch. As I say, we're at WeFollowUnited on Twitter. Also comment below, like and subscribe for what should be regular content again. Hopefully back in the studio with Nick and producer Joe and Dodgy Dave, of course, next week. We'll hope to have a proper show back together. It'll be brilliant. With Spurs reaction, we want a fan phone in on that, so whatever you think of the Spurs game, either pence it up if it's bad, get ready to release it on Thursday's show, or if it's happy, we'll look forward to a good chat then. So we'll speak to you next week, and please do keep in touch with us. We'll be on Twitter throughout the week and live throughout the game for any debates that you want to pick us up on. Thanks very much for listening, as always. Really do appreciate it. This has been the Chronicles podcast, and we'll see you next week.